Here we are at the ford at Kingston Deverill, which is in the Upper Deverills in Wiltshire. It's a lovely spot, but the reason we're here is because it's one of the sites that I think is most likely to have been the location of what is referred to in the Anglo-Saxon chronicles as Egbert's Stone. Now, the reason why it could be here is this was this ford, which now actually forms the boundary between Kingston Deverill and Monkton Deverill, is actually at the crossing, what seems to be at the crossing of two Roman roads. The first Roman road being the road that runs from Old Sarum near Salisbury to Charterhouse in the Mendips, where the Romans had lead mines. And the other road is the road that comes up from Badbury Rings in Dorset, and possibly, although I don't think it's been confirmed, continues from here to Bath. So it's an important crossing place, and furthermore, the ancient track called the Hard Way, also known as the Harrow Way, passes not far to the south of here. So this is potentially a significant place. I'll also tell you a little bit later about how the story about some stones that were found near here and were thought possibly to be the actual Egbert stones, but we'll come on to that. We'll come on to that later. The Egbert stone is important because it was the penultimate stop of King Alfred and his troops before the important Battle of Eddington, or Ethandun, at Eddington in Wiltshire, where King Alfred defeated the Vikings. That was a very important victory. So he went from Athelney to Egbert Stone to a place called Ely, which you will see in the other video, and from there he went on to defeat the Vikings at Ethandun. So this is quite an important, finding King Egbert's Stone is quite important to working out the itinerary of King Alfred from Athelney to the battle. So it is entirely possible that we could be stood at that spot where King Alfred gathered his troops before the battle, on the way to the Battle of Eddington. Now, when you look at the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, it looks like there may have been more than one camp at Egbert Stone, and I suggest that it wasn't just at Kingston Deverill, that it was also at Monkton Deverill, and there's also a place called Brixton Deverill. So it's possible that King Alfred's troops might have been strung out along the River Wylye, and it's the River Wylye that provides the water through the Upper Deverills, and the River Wylye itself also provides a route, or following the River Wylye also provides a route towards the site of the Battle of Ethandun. So it's all very interesting to look at the geography around here. So here we are at the Church of St Mary the Virgin at Kingston Deverill, and we've come down here because it's the centre, to represent the centre of the village, and I think this village is relevant, probably relevant to being the location of Egbert's Stone. The church, there's no evidence that the church would have been here, although there could have been a Saxon church here before. But there are one or two other things which are worth talking about, one of which is there's a hill over in that direction called Court Hill, and if the camera just pans up over to there, and there's a gliding club up there, and there's a story associated with this Court Hill. First of all, the word court, people have thought it was like King Egbert's court, held court there, and therefore he had stones up there, and that would have been Egbert's stones. And to further the legend, sometime, quite a long time ago, a man came down the hill with 3 stones, and they were thought to be King Egbert's stones. We don't know whether they were just like a dolmen, which is like a prehistoric structure made out of stones, or something else, or just stones, sarsen stones, or something lying around that he brought down. Anyway, they were then thought to be used as stepping stones, and then they were in the rectory of the garden of the rectory of Kingston Deverill, and those stones are still around. I mean, we can't see them because they're in a garden actually off in that direction, quite close to here. I managed to peer over and just about see them, but they're not easy to see. But it's worth bearing in mind that they might not actually be the stones. They might not actually be the real Egbert stone. So it's interesting to come here and think about these legends and the potential history here. For me, what makes Kingston Deverill a likely place isn't so much the fact that there's a court hill and somebody's found some stones, but more because of the confluence of roads and trackways, and it's also in a sensible location to get to where we think King Alfred went next, at the place called Ely, see the other video, and then on to the site of the Battle of Ethandun at Eddington, and there's a video for that as well. So it seems it's a combination of geographically fitting and also having the trackways. So I've just found that I can see Court Hill from down here, and it's up there in the distance, so that's where the supposed Egbert's stones came down from. And we stood by the very busy A303, and we're at a place called Willoughby Hedge. Now, people might be more familiar with Willoughby Hedge because there's a service station which you can just see up there, which is called Willoughby Hedge. But the reason why we're here is that we're actually at the crossing of two important ancient tracks. The 303 at this point is what is known as the Hard Way, or the Harrow Way. It's the same thing, Hard Way or Harrow Way, and it's an ancient track that runs across southern England. And you will find that some of the other places that we go to, like King Alfred's Tower, are also on the Hard Way. And the other route that comes through here, which you wouldn't notice, is a Roman road. So a Roman road comes through the hedge here. If we look there, a Roman road comes through there, and it goes up this. If you go here, there's a track. So the Roman road goes down this track that you can just see here at the entrance to. And it's actually the same track that goes to the same Roman road that runs to Kingston Deverill from Badbury Rings. So it's actually an important crossing point, and I think it must have been relevant to the location of King Egbert's stone. Okay, so we've now moved on to Kilmington Common, and we're here because this has also been put forward as a location for Egbert's stone, and that's based on the fact that several trackways apparently used to meet here, but I can't trace all of those. But what is clear is that the Hard Way, also known as the Harrow Way, which we were talking about at Willoughby Hedge, also runs through here, and that's an ancient trackway that runs right across southern England, and almost all of southern England, and we're actually stood on it right now. So if you look there, that's heading towards King Alfred's Tower, where we will be going next, and if you go the other way, that's the Hard Way heading towards where we were earlier, because eventually this little track, the Hard Way, becomes the 303. The 303 is built over the ancient track of the Hard Way at certain locations, as you saw when we were at Willoughby Hedge. The 303 there what is built over this Hard Way. So the reason why this Hard Way is important is because it seems to connect various locations that could have been Egbert's stone, and that would have made sense because King Alfred was at Athelney, which is to the west, and Egbert's stone, Ethandun, the site of the important battle, was further east, and this was one of the routes that it might have been sensible for him to take. So we might even be stood over on the footprints of King Alfred and his troops as they marched west towards the site of the Battle of Ethandon at Eddington. Here we are at King Alfred's Tower, which is part of the Stourhead estate, and it's also on the hard way, in other words the Harrow Way, the track that we've already talked about, the ancient track. And this is probably the site that is most frequently put forward as the location of Egbert Stone, which is where King Alfred rallied his troops together before going on to defeat the Vikings at the Battle of Eddington at Ethandon, or Ethandon at Eddington rather. So this was ordered to be built by Henry Hall II in the 18th century. You know, there's no evidence that there was anything here before to indicate that this would have been Egbert's stone, but it's by the ancient trackway. It's a possible location, but there's nothing to prove that this was where Egbert's stone was. Quite interesting. I mean, you go up to it and it's actually huge, and in fact in 1944 an American plane crashed into it and the top section had to be rebuilt. We moved in closer to the tower itself, and there are one or two things that are probably worth just mentioning. One is, if we pan up there, there's a plaque there, and it says that King Alfred raised his standard here in 879. It would have actually been 878 because we now realise that the dates were out by some months, and of course, as we said earlier, there's no evidence that it was the Egbert Stone, which is where he brought his troops together, was here in any case. So if we scroll up even further, we come to the statue of King Alfred there, which I think is a very, very nice statue. And if we go further up still, you can sort of like sense the size and bulk of the building. Right, made it to the top.
Why did they have to build it so high?
Anyway, we're at the top of King Alfred's Tower, and which was built in the 18th century, except for this bit had to be rebuilt in 1944 because an American plane crashed into it. So great views all around. Recommend coming up here, and you know, we can move around. Let's have a look at some different views. So we got this view here, and absolutely amazing, lovely day as well. Sort of plenty
Which
of
county is that?
blue sky. Well, we should be looking there up into Wiltshire and Somerset. I can't quite recall where the border would lie, but if we go this way, we should. I mean, that should be looking down into Dorset, and this should be looking across into Somerset. So there we are. Yeah.
Beautiful views.
So it's more probably Dorchester is straight ahead, and Somerset is off to the right here.
Absolutely beautiful up here. Killer stairs though. Not for the faint-hearted or people that don't like walking stairs.
Here we are at Factory Hill, which is near the north tip of Dorset, and we're here because we're very close to where the three counties of Somerset, Wiltshire and Dorset meet, and there is legend that King Alfred's Egbert Stone was at where those three counties met. There's no evidence that that should be the case, but it has persisted in legend, so it's worth exploring. It's also thought that the border between the three counties might not be in exactly the same place now as it was then, because Selwood Forest, which might have formed the boundary, might have actually gone further into Dorset. So it's a very interesting place, this. It was once a mill on the Stour. I mean, the Stour here isn't very, very big today. I mean, this is just south of Stourton, which is where the source of the River Stour, which flows from around here to all the way to Christchurch on the Dorset coast. And after that, I mean, if we look over there, you can just about see there's very little left of the original factory. And there was a mill here, on the Stour, and then later on it became a factory, hence the name of this road that comes through here as Factory Hill. And then it became, that factory used to make what was known as Mills bombs. Now Mills bombs are a type of hand grenades. They used to make those here, and for a while the factory went out of use and it was dilapidated, and it's obviously been taken down now, and it's housing development. But near here there is a place called Bull Pits Golf Club, and they've got a stone standing on their golf course, and there is legend that was Egbert stone, but I have been told that actually that isn't, and it's also not at the junction of the three counties. Is this Egbert stone? I think it's one of the less likely places, because taking King Alfred's the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles and Asser's diary, Asser's biography of King Alfred together, the location is supposed to be in the eastern part of, or east of, Selwood Forest, and it seems, looking at maps, that this could not have been either of those. So I don't think this was where Egbert stone was, but it's still an interesting part of local legend and folklore, and perhaps maybe it can't be absolutely ruled out.